the dream she had clung to so desperately.
Okay, now smile and say cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger.
His face has never made the cover of Time. Most of us had never heard his name. But what he sells flows in the veins of most of America's junkies. He is the world's biggest drug dealer. And News Center 4's Gary Rebstock went to Burma to get his story. Gary?
Sylvia, in one of the poorest valleys in Burma lives a man named Khun Sa, and he is a multi-millionaire. But like the beautiful red poppies that grow in his fields, Khun Sa is not what he appears. He is a father whose trade kills children, a monarch who cries freedom, a drug dealer who builds schools, a man who holds much of America captive.
In my opinion, Khun Sa is obviously one of the most notorious drug traffickers in the history of the world.
The general would be a hero to you?
Yes, not only for me, for the Shan peoples.
In the United States, I would rank him as public enemy #1.
I think he is freedom fighters.
Khun Sa and his group had laid on an assassination attempt of our group, either an assassination or a kidnapping.
Who is this man with the haunting laugh, who's accused of trying to kill a U.S. congressman, who's considered a hero by his people, who has his own private army, who travels his land in a white pickup truck with 6 armed guards in the back, and whom you've probably never heard of? And how did he come to be the world's biggest drug dealer? That's what we went to find out. Khun Sa lives in what is called the black area of Burma, the Shan state, called black because it is not controlled by the Burmese government. It lies south of China and west of Laos and Thailand. To reach Khun Sa's Homong compound, you enter the Shan state illegally from Thailand. From the border, it is a 12-hour trip by mule and on foot, through dense jungles and thick forests. The Shan state is a mountainous region. It is one of the most beautiful places on earth, and also one of the poorest. Life has changed little for most people here in the last 100 years, but the Shan state is the perfect place to grow opium poppies. That is how Khun Sa justifies his business to the outside world. But for the support of his people, he appeals to their patriotism. Each morning, Khun Sa's soldiers sing the Shan national anthem, an anthem for a nation that does not exist. The Shans were promised their independence 30 years ago by the Burmese, but have never received it. For Khun Sa's soldiers, his history makes him the perfect role model. Khun Sa was 13 when World War II ended, the same age many of his soldiers start training today. Their future is his past. He has been fighting all his life, but not always for Shan independence. Lester Wolf chaired the House Narcotics Committee in the 1970s. He investigated Khun Sa.
I was told that he was one of the principal traffickers in the region, that he had some connection with their independence movement, but primarily he was a businessman. In other words, a hired gun.
A hired gun at one point for the people he was supposed to be fighting. In 1963, at the age of 30, the Burmese government made Khun Sa a militia commander in the Shan state. He was not paid. He was allowed to traffic in small amounts of opium to support his army. His future was decided. Khun Sa soon broke with the Burmese, but not the opium trade. It was far too lucrative. The farmers who grow the opium are paid very little for their labor, perhaps a few $100s for their entire crop. But usually they are given salt or clothing for their opium, not cash. Khun Sa's agents buy the raw opium and then boil it carefully in makeshift jungle laboratories, the first step in turning opium into morphine or heroin. That refined opium is then loaded on horses and mules and makes its way to the border of Thailand, always under the protection of Khun Sa's army. Khun Sa charges $300,000 a ton for opium upon delivery to dealers in Thailand, and he delivers a lot of it.
It has been said that you control as little as 30% or as much as 90% of all the opium that is grown in the Shan state. What is the true amount?
80%.
80%.
กว่าตั้งเมืองมานกว่าเมืองเชกว่าเมืองลาว 20%.
80% of the Shan state's opium production is roughly 1,000 tons of opium a year. At $300,000 a ton, that's $300 million for Khun Sa. $300 million for delivering opium to Thailand, where it is refined into heroin and shipped all over the world, where its value skyrockets. On the streets of Tokyo, Paris, New York, or San Francisco, the heroin Khun Sa supplies will bring more than $200 billion, and much of it comes to America. February 1989, the DEA and FBI announced the world's largest heroin bust ever, with arrests in San Francisco, New York, and Los Angeles. 800 pounds of pure heroin, worth more than $1 billion, smuggled in tires. It came from Southeast Asia. It came from Khun Sa. Robert Bender is Assistant Special Agent in charge of the San Francisco office of the Drug Enforcement Administration. He spent 3 years as a field agent in Southeast Asia.
In terms of what he supplies every year, it's a mere drop in the bucket.
World's biggest heroin bust ever, and it's a drop in the bucket
to him.
It was drug money that built this compound where Khun Sa trains his soldiers. A compound that is growing every day. And it is drug money that allows Khun Sa to live like what he is, the king of heroin. This is one of Khun Sa's houses. He has 4 of them here at the compound, though we're told he seldom stays here. Sometimes he stays with villagers, sometimes with his soldiers. But Khun Sa's main home is about a half-mile from here, at a place called The Garden. A private lake with a gazebo is the first thing you see at Khun Sa's garden. There will be 2 swimming pools here. Both will be lined with tile. In a country with no electricity, he has brought in a generator and power tools from Thailand to build his newest home here. It will be made of brick, also imported. He likes his food fresh, so they are raising turkey and quail here, also geese, ducks, and rabbit. And of course, there is a fish farm, and soon an aviary for his exotic birds. This is Khun Sa's version of paradise. Not bad for a man with a price on his head. This is a wanted poster. Under pressure from the United States, the Thai government is offering 500,000 baht for Khun Sa, dead or alive. That's about $20,000 in a land where a soldier's pay is 20 cents a day. Some of Khun Sa's competitors would pay much more. Which is why, wherever Khun Sa goes, even to his own army's annual soccer tournament, there are always lots of armed guards around. Even the man who serves Khun Sa's tea carries a loaded .45. If history has taught us anything, it is that anyone can be assassinated, no matter how many security guards they have, no matter how large their army.
But he offers his protectors something that money can't buy. Gary?
Sylvia, in the Shan state of Burma, where Khun Sa lives and works, the people live lives of utter poverty. They are oppressed brutally by the Burmese government. Khun Sa offers them hope, offers dreams of a better life, of liberty from their oppressors, of happiness. The price of hope is heroin. Khun Sa calls himself the George Washington of his people, and many of them revere him as a patriarch, to be loved and protected. The opening ceremony for the annual soccer tournament of Khun Sa's Shan United Army. A ceremony they practiced to get right before the boss arrived, General Khun Sa. These are the same men who will protect Khun Sa's opium shipments, but that was not the subject of his opening speech. The general tells them of a village in the northern Shan state that he's just learned was attacked and burned to the ground by the army of the Burmese Communist Party, his competitors in the opium trade, though that is not mentioned. The perfect fatherly tone coming from the world's biggest drug dealer. But that is not how his people see him. Do you wish to be like him?
Yes, I wish. I came here to be a soldier, to be a Shan freedom fighter.
Until 6 months ago, Saipan Mong was a student at Rangoon University. One of the students demonstrating in the streets last summer calling for a new and democratic government in Burma. One of the students fired upon by the Burmese army. He showed us the identity card all non-Burmese must carry in Burma. It identifies him as a Shan, which means he can never get a good job or get a passport. He thinks Khun Sa will change all that for the Shan people.
Because he left Shan peoples to fight for the Shan people what they need, what they want, and their freedoms.
Have you read that others have accused him of being a drug dealer?
I have heard, but I have no seen by my eyes.
Nor will he. Not here at Khun Sa's compound. Not here in Khun Sa's valley. What he will see is the school that Khun Sa's drug money has built. A school for the villagers' children, where they learn a discipline and respect that would be the envy of any American teacher. And he will see the hospital Khun Sa's drug money pays for, where the young boys in Khun Sa's Boys Brigade line up each morning to get pills for a stomachache or antibiotics for the flu, where a village man can get an injection for an intestinal problem, and all of it free of charge, and where Dr. Bury, also a refugee from the capital of Burma, treats Khun Sa's soldiers wounded in battle.
This one wounded by bullet, and the camera is broken.
As a doctor, how do you feel about the fact that everything here is financed through the opium trade?
You know, I didn't interest in the opium trade. It's not my job, so I didn't interest on it.
The doctor, like the soldier, suffers from a common syndrome here: see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. They think only of the fight for freedom from Burma. They see only the good Khun Sa's drug money does for the Shan people. And some of them owe their lives to Khun Sa, like Rong Kiao, a refugee from an area controlled by the Burmese government. Kiao escaped with his family and 12 other families from his village. It took them 3 years to make their way to Khun Sa's valley. They had nothing when they arrived, but Khun Sa gave them land and the tools to work it. He gave them enough rice and money for a year, and more than that, he gave them hope. Try to convince Rong Kiao that his benefactor is public enemy number 1. Khun Sa, the drug dealer with an answer for every question, even for the devastation his heroin brings.
What do you say to an American mother whose child has died from a heroin overdose or from AIDS from infected needles when shooting heroin. What would you say to that mother?
อันไหนเนี่ยเขากินยาเขาอิลูเขาเคยอุเมเขาละตัวอัตัวยาเขามาหาคนสาธิตตนมันเขามีเงินก็อย่าไปสั่งซื้อยาผิดได้อันนี้เป็นที่หนึ่งยาเก่าเนี่ยอิลูอันจะตายกว่ามั้งไม่ใจจอมอันมีอยู่ในปุ่มสุรา
He has been called the Prince of Darkness, and by the devil we are being offered a deal. Khun Sa has made millions of dollars from the heroin trade, and now he desperately wants to become legitimate. He wants to be recognized by the United States, by any Western power, as the savior of his people, not the world's most wanted criminal. So Khun Sa is offering to quit the drug business, to eradicate half the world's heroin supply, for a price. It is Thursday morning, April 6th. Khun Sa arrives on time for our 9 o'clock interview. You have a very beautiful compound. His security force arrived about 15 minutes earlier. Even though this is his compound, the base camp of his 10,000-man army, Khun Sa doesn't take any chances. Seated beneath pictures of the King and Queen of Thailand, a country that has placed a price on his head, Khun Sa, the opium king with the haunting laugh, told us of his plan to get his people out of the opium and heroin business forever.
How này hậu bị追溯退没了，那没好拿来接接的，没留别西，搞搬马来必要，他们也凭靠上海，唔海路被南马完。
This is Khun Sa's 6-year plan for ending opium production in the Shan state. It calls for bringing in agricultural specialists to help his farmers grow other crops, and medical specialists to teach them the evil their opium brings to the world. Building roads and bridges to get their new crops to market, schools to educate their children, and hospitals to provide medical care. In exchange, Khun Sa will deliver an increasing percentage of his opium to authorities and decrease the amount that is grown until it's all gone at the end of 6 years. The price tag to the United States government is $288 million to be paid over 6 years.
And Khun Sa will allow American observers to come in and check the opium production and be involved in every step of the eradication program?
Nè, hậu thằng à, nó做呀唔开闭，咪按开闭呀片呢，那老家咪管上过，按路兰เขาสูงไว้4ด้านคนสา
An absurd statement coming from the world's biggest heroin supplier, but he's been making the offer for at least 12 years.
เมื่อปียิงก็ปากเจสซี่เจ็บคู่มิสเตอร์วูฟเจอโจเซฟมาเพราะว่า6 ปีเขาจะ退หักสูเฮียนได้เจ็บไปมันก็ป่งขึ้นนะเมื่อเขาหลานได้70 เจ็ดมาเลี้ยว80เก่าป่นมาหลายปีแล้วทำด้วยอย่าพิงเขาลองหายไม่หายรู้ไปหนำมากมัน
But in 1977, the House Select Committee on Narcotics did recommend making a deal with Khun Sa in this report, a deal called a preemptive buy. The reason the committee cited is this: what we have done in the past has not been effective. The report goes on to conclude the answer is not helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft to transport troops. We have to reach some sort of agreement with the people who are growing opium. Lester Wolf chaired the House Narcotics Committee in 1977. Their recommendation was rejected by the Carter White House.
We were told that this was against policy, and yet prior to that time in 1972, the United States government paid $1 million to some group for 26 tons of opium. We also, subsequent to that, paid the Turkish government not to plant opium. This was, in effect, a preemptive buy as well.
Instead, Washington opted for more helicopters and more troops. This is videotape taken by the Thai military of its assault on Khun Sa's compound in northern Thailand in January 1982. It had been his base of operations, unmolested, for 5 years, until pressure from the U.S. became too great. Weapons and supplies were seized in this raid, but not Khun Sa. A week before, he had moved across the border into Burma, where he travels his land with his security force, where his new compound is 10 times as large, and the so-called war against him and his army is even less effective. The countries that are supposed to be fighting Khun Sa run articles like this one in the Bangkok Post on Friday, April 7th. It says the Border Patrol Police and Khun Sa's men are poised to do battle. But on that date, Khun Sa's frontline forces were busy smoking venison from a deer they killed and erecting a new headquarters building, not preparing for battle. The simple fact is, Khun Sa has built a kingdom for himself, and his drug money makes him untouchable. As distasteful as it is, Khun Sa's offer may be the only hope for stopping the flow of his heroin. While Western governments continue to reject it, Khun Sa keeps on laughing, all the way to the bank. We asked drug czar William Bennett to respond to Khun Sa's offer. He said that he is just beginning to study Asian narcotics matters, that he has until September 5th to formulate his national drug strategy, that for now, he has no comment. Bob, Sylvia?
This could be a screenplay.
Yeah, many.